yeah, it's useful for people to have the training tool. And if you're running on a 50 series, it's like nobody's talking about it, and so here's a fix for it. Ta-da! This training toolkit is for if you're trying to train yourself. The training could be anything from a subject to a certain type of motion or style or anything like that. It's a UI for visually giving you a setup that makes it a little bit easier to train, but all the back-end stuff is there. Useful tool. Okay, so today I just want to see if my fixed AI Toolkit installer still works, because there are some new models out, and I would assume that the toolkit now has those, but we need to repull the entire repository for the AI Toolkit, so we're just going to rebuild the entire thing. And yeah, we're just going to run this. I'll be back. You see how there's the new folder that was spawned here? Because I renamed my old one to AI Toolkit 2, so we're building a new environment in this one right now, seeing if everything installs properly. If everything doesn't install properly, we'll go back and fix it, and I'll record that just so that people could see how how it works, or how me fixing or updating the installation one-click installer would work. Just because there's a little bit of troubleshooting involved in terms of getting everything properly, like just getting everything to link properly, just because everything is so dependent on specific little things. Nice. Alright, so this is the command that you need to do in order to start the training. I have a bat file actually right on my desktop over here. I don't know where it is. I had to search for it. But let's run this. Okay, looks like our GPU's running. Nice, we got all these. I actually think that those were there before, but some of these, the way it's organized is a little bit different. So, oh, and it also has Flux too. Okay, and Chroma and all these other different things. So actually that's good that we updated it. Yeah, sick. Still works. So we're just going to go over what the actual GitHub is for the installation for like training, for installing the AI toolkit, this. And then we'll go over what I did. So you're git cloning the repository, you're CDing into that folder, you're then creating an environment, you're activating the environment, you install Torch, as well as Torch Vision and Torch Audio, right, as well as this version of CUDA. So this is actually the problem, is installing this, like all of this right here, because the 50 series cart does not play nice with some of that stuff. So because of that, you have to update that. The way that I was able to kind of figure that out was because there's a Comfy UI version of the 50 series. Since there was a version of CUDA and Torch with Torch Vision and Torch Audio that I knew worked, I used the ones that worked there for this installation. A little bit different, maybe one or two things a little tiny bit different, but overall kind of got that idea from there. lastly, you just install your requirements, right? So should have been going here, but it's the same thing regardless of if it's on Linux or if it's on Windows, right? Only key difference is the way that you're activating, right? With Linux, your source, and then activating, as opposed to with Windows, you just have like this short little shortcut, I guess is what I call it, right? Like, because you're already CD'd into this folder, so you're able to like just target it with a dot, and then activate that folder, install, and then the requirements.txt. So if you go up here, you can see the requirements.txt, and we'll compare it with mine actually. Oh look, 2 people started. That's cool. You can see there's just very slight differences. Well, I guess not slight differences. There's a few different things that we call here that we're not calling here. But it's in order to get whatever we need working, right? Obviously, when we git clone the library, it does come with this requirement.txt. So then we're just checking for it. If it exists, delete it, right? And then we just create a new one. Our requirements.txt is all of these, which essentially are all of these, but with a few separate changes, right? I think the biggest one is we do end up installing Triton, which this does not, as well as just like different versions of some of these things. You can see here, these are just pulling the latest versions. Here it needs like specific versions in order to work. So that's really all we're doing there. After we've created our requirements.txt, we are creating our environment. We then activate our Python environment. Same thing that we're doing here. We're just calling it, right? Because this is just it's a bat file. So after we call it, we are then installing setup tools. So these setup tools are used in order to properly build some of these libraries, right? Here you do not need those setup tools. Everything here already works, as opposed to here we do need to build our wheels. So after you get the setup tool, we're then doing the core change to the cull version. So you can see here. And just to be clear, when you hear me talking about cull, like when I'm talking about the cull 128, here it's cull 126, I'm talking about CUDA. I just call it cull. Don't ask me why. This is cull 128, and here it's cull 126, right? And then alongside with that, you need the proper torch vision, right? So we have torch vision in here, right? So torch vision 22.0 as opposed to 22.1 plus cull 128, and then torch, right? Because we just need to have it match to the 128, right? And then obviously we call our requirements.txt, which is the last step, right? I added onto the end of the bat file so that it creates a file for starting the training, just because I feel like some people might have a little confusion on how to do how to start the training. So there's a little bat file that you can just, so then once you see this setup training complete, you can double click this start training.bat, and it will activate your environment, CD into the UI, and run the build, which will then open to an IP. Figured that if I just made it a little bit easier for people. And then obviously, you could create a shortcut. We could take our shortcut and just put it over there. Or you could have it CD into the folder at the beginning, like, CD into whatever folder you have it in, instead of creating the shortcut. Either way, don't really matter. Could do it either. Point being, once it's complete, you can just go or to the local IP that it gives you, right? And you'll see your GPU's working and everything's working. So yeah, but that's just a brief breakdown of that installation tool. I wanted to break that down just because it's useful for people to have the training tool. And if you're running on a 50 series, it's like nobody's talking about it. And so here's a fix for it. Ta-da! You're welcome. Bye.